vote. I will call the January 15th, 2025 meeting of order. Looks like we have a full house. Jeff and Tony, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can hear you.
All right, thanks. First, there are motion to approve the minutes from someone.
So I have the incorrect date on the agenda, and I also missed a previous date, so I think we can do the November 13th meeting, and this one will be on.
Let's just take care of it.
Okay.
Neither date is correct. All right.
They're ready now. For the next
Are there any appearances or anything not on the agenda?
Rob's here first one.
Well, unfinished business, new business. 5A, 2025, full hours of operation discussion. Put a hand out here. Didn't get one without the rule. Nick?
Yeah, welcome back. Happy 2025, everyone. One of the things that we kind of look at each year is pool use and when people are coming to the pool and where our revenue streams are and attendance numbers and similar to the demand in the after school program and summer camp. Parents use the pool kind of mirrors that as well on when they sign up for swim lessons. So the last change of pool hours, I think years ago, like $56 thing, when we added some weekend, busy morning times, and then still kept these multiple swim lesson sessions in the morning and had the evening lesson. So over the last couple of years, demand for the evening swim time has increased for lessons and had less people signing up in the morning, and kind of our swim and dive club saw the same thing. More kids wanted to do the afternoon time versus the morning time. And coupled with that, as part of this recommendation, is been to the pool during the adult lap swim, it's kind of morphed into the adult Zumba party. Yeah. And while, you know, there's times where they're making one lane available for swimming, or we just take the pool and which is great, but they're still like trying to balance the needs of all swimmers. So looking at how we could potentially fit in some dedicated lap swimming at one period of time by changing hours, and then having a full 45 minutes or an hour for aqua swim level, gaining a little bit of time for open swim, and then adding a third session of lessons in the evening. So what that kind of does is compress the evening schedule to only have an hour and 15 or an hour and a half swim, and that's been our reduced fee swim anyway, 2 hours. And so I think given that, trying to make sure we're looking at our community, our Monona community, especially in the swim programs where that is, adding another time session there is beneficial. Kind of in talks with Mo Swim and Dive about looking at their facility use agreement too, because they would like to kind of have that same pool share time during that afternoon, which is open up another X amount of spots that could choose the afternoon swim session versus the morning. So that's kind of the general breakdown of it. Unfortunately, Missy had an appointment today. She wasn't able to come. We did also open in this an early morning adult lap swim option as well. So the 6 to 7:30 is typically our 15 to 18s or 14 to 18s for swim team, and that there's, you know, a couple lanes that would be potentially available to have for adult lap swim. It's just typically those master type of just lap after lap after lap swimming. You can kind of see the detailed schedule there, which has both weekdays and weekends. That 10 to 10:30 time frame would allow for some adult lap swim too, at the same time as swim lessons. And then we get into where we have the so 10:30 to 11:15. So basically 45 minutes you could get dedicated lap swimming now under this new schedule in the morning. And then from 11:15 to noon, you get 45 minutes of aqua, which is currently the length class. And then we open at noon to 5:30. I think right now we're 12:30 to 5:30. So we're gaining an extra half an hour of recreational open swim during the week. And gaining an extra session of swim. Weekends stay the same.
Okay, so. I see it on the backside at the very bottom, so proposed changes.
Yes, there's kind of the scenarios at the bottom.
Total swim lessons get reduced by 40 minutes a day, that you're will be able to accommodate.
Yeah, so it's like the mornings are tougher to fill, and we've been able to augment with our summer camp swim lesson program, where we're sending kids over from summer camp, which is a very nice option to have as a parent, that you can get your kids swim lessons during the day and not have to come back at night after camp. But we can fill in what we need to on the evenings by adding that third session, because we're really looking at those 4, 5, 6 year olds kind of our main base of kids that are taking swim lessons.
This adult lap swim, which should from 11 to 45 to, okay, that's still 45 minutes, okay.
Yep.
I really like the idea of just having the Zumba there and not the lab. Swimming at the same time, it's a really hot mess, because I do take that aqua Zumba quite a bit in summer. It's. I
There's
feel
been
bad.
user
And I
comments.
swim next to it.
Yeah.
I feel bad.
There's been user
It's really, yeah.
Get kicked in the face.
Right.
Is there some gonna be floating in the deck bottom?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So any comments or questions on it? Yeah, that's Rob.
Rob's here.
Rob, do you have any comments on this, the hours?
I do have one question for Jake, maybe I noticed, the early morning lap swim, I think it was on the Friday. I know we were discussing this with our head coach, and we've seen a drop in our 13 and older swim practice numbers. Those are the ones that are currently now starting at 6 o'clock. And one of the biggest feedback comments that we get from them is that it's too early. So don't know, Jake, if you've got, and we can discuss this a little bit more, but if there's room to have our start time be later, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes later, to give more adult swimming that like you're saying, those master swimmers, more time in the morning, and we could possibly shift things back to occupy more of those lanes later. I know that's not final. This is one of the ideas we're talking about. A lot of our things that we have to consider is availability of coaches to manage that too. But we've also got ideas on maybe starting a new program. Something that we call mini magicians or mini mo, where it's introducing competitive swim strokes to younger swimmers, 4 to 5 year olds that typically can't do a big long workout, but they could do a half hour type thing, and we're in the lanes or something like that, get them introduced to competitive swimming, get them part of the team that also fills some of the reacts to some demand that we're getting for younger athletes to be on the team. So I know Coach Kelly is considering all those options. She's trying to come up with a potential use as well. So we just may have some more input in there on maybe seeing the ability to shift things a little bit later in the morning, give some more time for lap swimmers, and try and get our attendance numbers up with some later start times. So.
All right, thanks. You have any response to that, Jake?
I mean, I think that's fine as long as, you know, you stick within that kind of time block. We have, you know, 4 lanes starting at 9:30. So I think our typical shallow end, levels 1 to 3, you know, kind of in that first morning time slot, where we feel like our biggest demand is, you know, for the different type of lessons. So I think as long as we can squeeze in during that time period, or if we have to adjust it just a little bit.
Yeah, right. We're not proposing taking over the whole pool with any of these adjustments. We would still, that core, you know, until 9:30 would be the use of the pool, but after that, we understand there's other uses going on, and it would mimic, you know, that after 9:30 would probably mimic like that afternoon, like you're saying, the 4 or 6 lanes, or whatever it ends up being, where we have some of the lanes and lessons are going on at the same time. And this would really be focused on the lanes. The dive well, we don't anticipate any change in the times that we have in use of the dive well at all, so.
All right,
Okay, and then next one with booth 7 to 9 p.m.
It would go 7:30 to 9, so we're losing half an hour. Monday through Thursday.
And has it always been just rental?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we used to have the morning option years ago, but when we introduced the family swim on the weekends, it limited to that, but then we opened the semi-private cabana events, parties under the shaded structures there, so it seems that they're booked. Like, we have good, you know, response to the private rentals at the hours that we have.
somebody who would like to make a motion?
I mean, I had on there, if we want to discuss it, bring it back in February, we certainly can do that. I mean, I think there's the hours as far as it relates to swim and dive are probably, you know, fit within that basic strategy. It's really just shifting this, you know, time around to accommodate kind of an extra swim lesson. We'd like to get our swim lesson schedule out by March 1st, and we start registration on April 1st. It's not really, you know, we're not anticipating a major increase or decrease revenues that were proposed and approved in the operating budget process. So I think I'm comfortable now, if the committee feels like they want to look it over and have additional feedback and comments, we can certainly have that come back in February. But either way is fine. I think the swim team component, you know, in theory of having the availability to them is, you know, what we were looking for is in the afternoon, and that's a change that time period. Later start, but still within the confines of what you see in front of you.
Right. So you, I mean, if somebody wants to make a motion, that'd be fine, or we can wait and do that next February.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so, further discussion? All in favor of approving the proposed pool hours, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. And thank you. Next item is the Monona Swim and Dive Facility Use Agreement discussion recommendation. If you also had this possible. talking about it.
Yeah, this one, I think we have probably a little bit more discussion to do with Mo based on what their final, requests are based on the hours. We detailed this out pretty tightly, given just kind of the timing of when different people and groups are coming into the pool. This one was approved before last season on a 3-year contract that included the pricing for 3 years. And so this would be an amendment to this existing contract. And there was Missy had updated kind of the hours and stuff. This was the existing one. I did not include that in your packet. But, Rob is here if you have any questions, or Rob, I know you guys had a board meeting the other night, so you could touch upon it a little bit if you wanted to, or, longer term goals, for the club, etc.
Before you do that, Rob, so Jake, so Missy has, so what would be the change?
The changes were just the hours and times that we had previously discussed.
Okay.
Everything else was kept the same.
All right, Rob, did you have anything else?
No, nothing additional. We had another successful year, and really happy working with Jake and Missy. We're excited to open up our registration on March 16th, for this next year, and we anticipate having really good numbers. Again, the focus is trying to get attendance up for us, and so that's where we're trying to maybe adjust some practice times, and our biggest interest is in the 10 and younger age group. So having those additional evening practices, I think, will allow us to accommodate more swimmers, as long as we can staff that. That's where we have to consider that, as well as getting coaches in and getting them there. So but we're excited to get 2025 rolling, and we do appreciate everybody's flexibility with us and understanding how we work. I don't have dates of swim meets just yet. I think we'll get those in the next couple of weeks from the All City League. But we do have the potential to host 3 meets each for swim and dive. And we will likely, I don't know if we're hosting one the week of 4th of July, but that week will be a midweek meet for us, so we won't have any activity over the 4th of July holiday with meets or anything that are practices. So, but we can figure that out.
Okay. So I guess we can put a bring this back next time when you have the
Correct.
hours. Unless somebody has something they want to bring up about the amendment.
I'll just make a comment, Rob. I'm excited for the swim season. It's amazing we're talking about it this early in the year, being how cold it is outside. We were already anticipating registration and sign up. I'm really excited about the mini mo. My youngest's goal this year is to make it down the water slide, which you have to swim across the pool. Will the mini mo accept people that cannot swim strong? Do you know that?
To be determined. It's going to be focused more for those kids that are interested in swimming more the competitive strokes, and technique wise, and improving some endurance. I don't think the intent would be to mimic any type of lessons or educational as far as getting the basic mechanics down. So it would be for those kids that have usually it's that they have older brothers and sisters on the team, or see it and want to get there, but maybe are intimidated by the size of the practices and things like that. So this would be done in the shallows, or in the shallow area of the pool, and smaller groups, and not required to be at the meets. So we would have them at the model is that they would swim at one particular home meet, and that's it. They would have a specific heat dedicated to them, where their coaches could be in the water to assist them and things like that. So it really kind of more hands-on coaching with the swimmers than is done kind of it's for the older kids. So that's the model that's been done in other pools, and we'd like to mimic that here. Hill Farms does mini moos, they call them, and Shorewood has mini sharks, following their mascots and things like that. So that's where we thought mini mo or mini magicians would fit in nicely and help kids take that leap from lessons to the team and kind of bridge that gap between there. So
That's great. Thanks for the clarification. I think the plan is definitely swim lessons as well, but with having two olders on the team, we can tell them, be nice to get them even started earlier. We've seen that in other sports where, it's like a mini Mike in hockey, he's skating far before his older brothers were, just because he got the opportunity. But I'm glad, thanks for the clarification. That makes a lot of sense, that for those that want to focus on the actual sport of swimming and are kind of looking to move in that direction.
right.
Then nothing else on this item, we'll move. Thanks, Rob.
Sure. Thank you all.
5C is Monona Farmers Market Facility Use Agreement discussion and recommendation.
So, gonna be seeing a lot of these over the next couple of months, just FYI. And Farmers Market was approved for a 5-year agreement, that expired in 2024. I believe the working relationship with the board is quite solid in the city. It's certainly a very popular, activity. Matanuska Park, Mayor Dalbeck is the, president, of the farmers market, and also basically the market manager. So he's there every Sunday, moving tables and setting up the vendors. And we've had a few discussions about kind of what the future looks like for the farmers market and opportunities to raise funds for improvements at the park to support the farmers markets. So we had talked about just doing a 1-year extension or a 1-year agreement where the terms are exactly the same, because they've never we've never charged a fee for the use of the park or facility for farmers market. There's storage, there's certainly a cost to the city to support farmers market, so it is a subsidized activity. And there's a lot of money being exchanged for certain, goods at the market. So one of the things that we're investigating is what's happening at some places across the country. You'll hear this with New York City parks. Actually, we've heard recently about having a surcharge for ticket sales that are happening at parks that gets in with sinking fund or revolving fund facilities. Some of the things that happen in farmers markets where you might have a transactional fee for vendors that take credit cards, the vendor would be a quarter or 50% fee for each transaction comes back to a fund that would make those improvements. I think this is a good conversation to have long-term about what we do for the city and what we do for our residents and what our funding mechanisms are. And so we have new leadership coming this spring. And I think there's a lot of financial challenges still to be had by the city, which probably means, parks funding is going to be very tough to come by. Very selective about what projects we're going to support in this committee and from my end, and what opportunities we have to raise revenue outside of our normal general obligation taxpayer borrowing. So those are some of the thoughts, at least from my end, and why I'm promoting 1 year. I'm not saying that I'm recommending charging the farmers market a fee per se, but I'm certainly looking at opportunities for the users to, help support future improvements to the site. So Aaron could not make it today. I believe he's available for the February meeting. He was fine with just doing a 1 year, and I think he certainly understands that option. There's different things that would probably make their life easier to support the farmers market vendors that they have, and it's a balance of being able to attract and a good variety of vendors that come to the market, which produces a lot of. But there's just, I'll say when farmer's market on Sunday at Huska, it's busy. A lot of people there, a lot of people park, but it changes kind of the dynamics of how we get ready for, how we prep that park, given the nature of what happened, like Saturday night, it's busy at Huska, and we might have shelter rentals here at park. So there's certain hard costs, so to speak, that we incur to support the farmer's market. And it's a great amenity to have in the community. We're just looking at ways to maximize potential funding to support not only the farmer's market, but also the city. So nothing has changed in the facility use across the agreement we had before you. Hours are the same, dates are the same, no fee, it's just a 1-year kind of gap year to kind of need to have that conversation. And looking for direction, like, how funding may look moving forward for partners.
Looked at any information on, kind of the effects that happen after you do, like, maybe charge a fee to the users? Because we've got that great one on the square on Saturdays, it's free or see, or have you looked into if you think that that would affect the population that attends the Sunday? I mean, I'm all for raising
It's a
money.
relatively new concept, there's maybe 4 across the country that have implemented it. It's being discussed, I think, more frequently now, especially for like longer standing development projects and how those can get funded. And so, transaction fees are very common right now across the board, across different industries. It's a little bit more challenging because the vendors are on separate financial systems. And there's also like a different layer of EBT cards that are accepted, so they get double dollars. So it's not going to be potentially perfect. I think, the vision of what our master plan and what maybe kind of how we could better support the farmers market. We're going to talk about having a covered area where the performances are. That might be something like a solar powered canopy that, that would provide some shade relief, the performance and seating area. Actually more electrical hookups for the different type of vendors where they're at. Storage, a smaller storage facility that might be closer to where they set up, so it's not so contingent on, the annual labor it takes to like take all their tables and signs, things like that. So,
Where do you store their stuff now?
so they store in our supply. We have a supply room at the shelter, and that has farmers market equipment. It has park cleaning supply equipment, and then I'd like to say spring and fall, but we got to work with school district tennis equipment that's stored in there, balls and rackets and such that sometimes stay year round. And there's like a couple miscellaneous things, so it's not a huge room.
Right.
And depending on who the market, they're shoving, I know, like it's in here, shove like a bunch of things in the Subaru or something like that. To set it up, so I think that's the reasons looking for some direction from new mayoral leadership, and like to have some sort of vision with the farmers market, so they also understand that it's great to have, or we recognize that it's a valuable asset to have, and we're willing to subsidize it. Maybe that just shows up budgetary, like the amount of costs that the city incurs to host it is there as well. The Huska is a challenging part, I think, politically to get support on, because it's out of sight, out of mind, and it's relatively new in the grand scheme. 2000, but it is a heavily used park by visitors and for events, athletics programs, and I'm going to continue to work towards like advocating for improvements at the Huska Park, but I also want to have like another way
I don't even know how farmers markets work, like, Winona Farmers Market have a budget, fund that all the vendors do too.
Right, so they have, the vendors have to pay a fee, whether it's a week, like if they're there for 1 or 2 weeks, or whole year. And then they do solicit sponsorships. Yeah, that also supports the music and entertainment that they have.
Wouldn't it be easier to just charge the organization a fee and let them decide how best to collect it
It's-
from the vendors?
I mean, that's a great conversation, right? Like, how, I think if you're trying to raise, let's say, $200,000. But that's probably what we potentially could be looking at, like, for improvements for farmers market. Maybe not. Then you're looking, they're not gonna be able to absorb that yearly, fee towards that. It's gonna have to be some other source of funding. If it's just like, we want you to pay your fair share for the use of the park, then they're gonna pass that, they're gonna have to pass that on. The vendors, that might impact whether the vendors choose to stay in Winona or not, because that's their business, that's their livelihood, and if they go to whoever else does Sunday farmers markets, at a slightly lower cost, still maintain the revenue stream, I think it's a balancing act. I think there's a lot of longstanding vendors that are at the park, and a lot of people have loyal customer base, and, for the most part, at least the information that's shared with me is that the vendors like being in Winona. They have a good stable base of customers, and I think it must be profitable enough for them and keep seeing the same vendors year after year. And I don't know how much competition is on Sunday mornings for farmers market. That's the only thing. Addison has one on Saturday. Other than
There's
that,
one on the north side.
Yeah. yeah,
That's the only one I'm.
okay.
I agree, maybe looking into like what a fees are being charged locally.
So I can bring that back for another meeting regarding what the vendor fees, because it's kind of varied on size.
I mean, I have a lot of experience with Sunbury, because we sponsor it. It charges $3,500 a sponsor. Pretty significant, so I don't know what, are you the
Do you-
presenting,
do you-
sponsor? We're the presenting sponsor. So I don't know what.
For the sponsor.
Yeah, we've been doing it for years. Shop all the markets, basically, right? I don't know how the vendor fees work. I don't think I've ever even seen like stuff about the presenting sponsor. I'm not quite sure. But how they.
I agree with Rachel too. I would rather see the farmer's market deal with this than the city's charging you on your tomato. I mean, that is really, really,
Yeah, no, I don't know.
it's so far removed, and let them deal with it. I think it's a better idea. And then also, I know that you were trying to standardize our facility user agreements. So if we're standardizing those, or do we have rules like who was charged and who was not? Like, are we even across the board?
No. Support because of the perceived public. I think the farmer's market is seen as a more valuable public asset than having a Capital Youth Football organization, so that being, and like kind of weird, like, what facility, is it a facility like a pool that we have to have lifeguards on, and staff costs versus all of that, so like having maybe, I think equitable, charging of using city facilities is probably more of a better, like, we could have a policy where any organization that's charging money to use the city facilities would be charged. That fee is, either negotiated or presented to this committee and the board, based on information. So I think what I'm hearing is probably would like to see, a typical budget from the farmers market where their actual revenue expenses are, their current threshold is, and what an increase in.
I'm like, look right now, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because the Winona market is the same size as Sunbury. not, I think it's bigger. Their sponsorships are only like $250 level and more. Like, that's just not.
Yeah, I was on the board for several years. When the sponsorships are low, and here it's a challenge.
So the challenge.
To get sponsors, I mean, some automatically.
Well, yeah.
And
Okay, so-
the vendor fees, I'm not sure what those are, it's been previous.
Yeah,
The
sure.
board, but, some vendors are there for the whole season and others are just there for whenever their produce is available, some that they have bigger spots, so they might pay a double fee, so it's based on per week that they pay, and they do hire a market manager and assistant market manager. That's been a challenge to find somebody and keep
Right.
them.
I don't even know if they actually have had true market managers last year.
Last year, I don't
I think they
know.
might have just had, we volunteer here, yeah, so. I mean, we had talked, you know, there was some talk at some point about whether or not they could sustain themselves with level of volunteers of the nonprofit board. And, you know, whether or not there would be, you know, just the city on it, like, you know, like, now, their full-time staff, because again, if you're trying to solicit sponsorship, you're trying to get numbers, there's a big, you know, big change.
Well, no, it is a big deal, market. I mean, I'm just contrasting the two.
Yeah.
Yep, the market is on Prairie, market manager, always on social media, something, things. Whatever, you don't really see that. Disregard, and then like on the website, it says, you know, it's like. Get on the website as a sponsor, there's no sponsor on the website, so I always wonder, so is there no sponsors, like you mentioned, so it's like. Yeah.
I think there would be people, you know, it's established now.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the top fire markets out there, because it's easy to get in. It's easier for you to go to Monona, it's not very, they go downtown, it's Saturday morning, it's like about 6 a.m.
But
Yes.
Yeah.
right,
They should be able to.
yeah, if all your programs, the experience.
Yep. Now,
Square.
I don't think maybe I need to volunteer for.
And I think, no,
You don't have enough on your plate.
No, because it's a great market, it is, I mean, it's, our restaurants love it. Yeah, like I said, kind of burning out.
Market too, they are paying.
I gotta bring my cans, I gotta bring my carts. Easy to pick up.
anyway, I think from the market's perspective, though, what's their motivation to seek out sponsors?
Paying the market too. I think this help cover expenses.
Right.
And the biggest expense, of course, would be the manager. I'm trying to think of who was managing. Trying to blank on his name. He works for you, Jake. He's great. He helped out at the.
Oh, Tom Cooch?
Tom.
Yeah.
And his daughter. They were.
Yeah,
they
that
worked
was
as
several
managers
years ago, yeah,
During COVID.
right.
Then Claudia Felicity, she does all the.
Right.
She's not paid.
Right.
Music that, you know, they pay less than $1. That was playing, whatever they went for kids.
Music's a great addition, and I have heard from a few artists that they're that enjoyable, they're centered. However, you know, either they had was like a designated stage or not saying a music venue by anything, but something like a little bit more of us for the artists and a little bit more of a, but I agree, like easy access, you have to wash them outside your playground, you have free park. Consistent vendors, I would like to see it grow. Maybe it's something where it's the cost to maintain the park, electrical, all that stuff, does the city of Monona require vending permits? Or is it lumped in?
They're supposed to follow all applicable state, federal.
Okay, so it's kind of lumped into Madison.
Yeah, we're not, I mean,
There's exemptions for, like, if they're selling food that's prepared, they need to have a Dane County help.
correct,
If they're vendors selling vegetables,
correct. Yeah, there's,
so
so
there's
yes,
other weird arcane ones too, like if you're selling vegetables in a prepackaged container, then you need other licensing. But if you're just selling it like that, it's open.
Yeah, a lot of rules, but it seems to be, local farmers, which it's about, but it's nice to see occasionally the, boutique dog food person, like, it's a big fan of popular foods.
right,
But maybe there might be opportunities to do some other types of, like, it's just, promoting city services.
With the mayor, Mary O'Connor, Bob, both have food there. Once a month, they would come, the, master gardeners are there once a month. So there are some spaces for that kind of thing that are designated, otherwise they have, I think the maximum is 26 vendors.
Oh, okay, so there's, and then I felt like there's a few like vagabond vendors popping up over the last, like, the guy that sells all the tennis rackets. On the outskirts.
yeah, he's not an official partner. It's hard, right? Like,
So,
we had talked about that in the master plan, it's actually bumping out on the east side, like another row of parking, give them 10 feet, because like one of the challenges that we have is they're using that parking stall, which is about 18, 19 feet long, with their 10 by 10 tent. And then their van or their vehicles drive up over the curb onto the grass. And, all their supplies are out, so it might be a big truck or a spider van or something like that, which that can complicate, turf damage when it's wet, et cetera. And, they're trying to maximize the space, kind of create nice walking paths, like there's nice wide walking paths between the booths and vendors, and then, some have like the bread vans that they sell out of, so they're taking up another space behind it. So I think, and then having parking, while you might have, tennis events going on. I think this was the first year that we experimented with not blocking the shelter off for rentals on Sundays. So like previously we had said no shelter rentals before 1 p.m. That's parking. We did open it up to say, well, you have your event start whenever, because farmers are like, we don't really use the shelter, they don't. Bathroom, but may not have parking. And kind of compounding that is we also have home camp baseball on Sundays. They have home game. Then that creates parking squeezes where they generate parking up the path of, the grass by the veggies. Center. So the hard part with the Luska is that the parking lot itself is going to need to be redone. And it's been crack filled and seal coated, but it's gonna be expensive to do the entire parking lot. So that's just maintenance. And that's one of the things about long-term care, bigger parks and having events. How do you start to, save up some money along the way where it's not such a big, huge cost, right? Because this could be like $500,000, this would be asphalt that entire parking lot. It's at a point where it's not necessarily repairable, with like a Band-Aid type of fix, and so it might have to get like sequenced out where it still has life to it, but at some point, next 5 to 10 years, progressing.
Is, the wear and tear on the parking lot impacted at all because that was a landfill at one point, is that?
I don't think so. I mean, there's so much gravel base under there, especially the front section of it. I think it's just,
It's not like really heavy equipment parking in there. It's just.
No.
mostly Passenger vehicles there.
right. It's just a fair amount of.
Yeah.
During weekdays, but
Just to clarify too, the income that will come from the sign, it's going up, that wasn't in the general fund, not used for expenses like that.
Well. That's up to the council.
Correct. But, well,
It goes to general fund, but how it's used.
there's 20,000 up front, but that's more. So, you know, it's at the. Improvements.
But we could. Depending on what it is, could as a council decide how to use that, right? Or to direct place.
and so like just to follow up with that, you know, we have accumulated some money for the apartment complexes that are going up, and so there's dedication funds that are accumulating, but it's like to the tune of 400K right now, so we need a lot more density to like continue to increase that, and that's gonna be another discussion on whether we kind of pay as we go, like burning a hole in our pocket, and just next project forward, you know, use that, or that might be the direction the mayor, you know, budget is to use that funding first, or be a little more strategic about it, that we're going to like offset some, you know, competing projects with a portion of that, portion of funds, and hopefully, you know, potentially grant recipients. So I think it's one that I'd like to be, partners with farmers market and how we like make it all work, because I think there's an avenue in which, you know, the volunteer nature of a board like dries up and it's just done, and they're like, we're not, that's because the fees, and, you know, I've seen that from a different nonprofit group before, in Monona, and it's just not something we can take on at Park and Rec with the staff level that we have right now. Like most of the people that are running it around, there's a few that are running municipalities, they have a full-time person, might be doing other stuff for the department, but it's a dedicated, and then to have, I mean, you know, like Aaron, I've seen a lot, like it's May through October, every Sunday, you know, like that's a big time to have one or two people kind of consistently being there, to be the like responsible person to make sure everyone's speaking.
And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that takes extra hours. That without Aaron and Claudia, there may not be a market.
Correct. And so I think that's like the balance of what can we, you know, and maybe that's what this year is to have those conversations with vendors and how valuable it is. And I mean, we can get financials, I think, the vendor, and provide some feedback on that, on, you know, where their expenditures are. Like I have an old budget, it was like 2017, so I don't think they would not be willing to share that with this committee. If we want to have that, you know, future discussion. So this has been great discussion, by the way. I think it's good to have this kind of topic of discussion for you know, value of the program and the kind of challenges that we have as a city to support it, and whether or not there's different funding mechanisms. So I think it's a two-part, right? Whether or not there should be a fee charged to farmers market, just as a statement of use of city facilities, right? No matter who you are, no matter what the organization, no matter what the good is. And then two, you know, is there an avenue with that particular event that's consistently to generate more revenue than what we would charge, you know, time user fees to support longer term. So the experience that's there, I think it's kind of a two-parter. I'm still at this point, you know, and for this year, I would recommend just keeping the status quo, but having it brought back
know, for additional discussion before we get into that next season. One year, sure. But I'm not confident that they would be in a position maybe this year to absorb additional.
I would just pay for parking. You know, to go to that market, I would pay to park there, go to that market, rather than go downtown and hassle with it. So wondering if somehow you'd be paying for parking there. I mean, some folks can walk here in Monona, but I pay for parking there to go there. Bucks, go park, play, buy some clothes. That way I feel that it's going towards that and not necessarily I'm getting dinged on by like the, you know, that, but I mean, just another kind of thought process is needed.
If it was small, like
Yeah.
$2.
Right, yeah.
A donation would be one.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard backlash on that. The parking that parks there.
Yeah,
Oh, this wouldn't be like for.
You just for the event.
It's just something to like a user fee and then it needs to be trickled down, you know.
They go, they'll know.
They pay an extra quarter on a tomato
Yeah.
and they don't know it.
Yeah.
And
No, you're right, that's what King County Farmers Market does, all the revenue is from sponsorships. And fees like that.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
The sponsorships are very flat, you know, maybe working on that.
I mean, we're, we need to pay $1,000 at the market.
And to like collect the parking fee and make that all happen.
Yeah, so that was
One
one.
word.
The
tops of where the little tabs.
Well, being stopped at a certain area, which I, backups. See it, like show.
That is great.
Yeah, that is true, I mean. So, I think that, I think there's, I'm hearing at least some consensus about, yes, to how we can generate revenue. Conversation, whether the fees that farmers market is charging their vendors is adequate or like in line with what other markets are paying, and if there's a path there, because certainly I think with the use agreement, we're gonna have to. What I'm really hoping is that at some point, these fees that we're charging for service, there's a line that it goes above and beyond, it's out of the general fund and into a single fund, which then can be used as another funding source for projects. So right now, if I bring in $1 million, that it goes into the general fund, does not come back to support, you know, if I go above and beyond my revenue goal. So ideally, we fix that in a way that allows us to be more, you know, aggressive with our revenue procurement, because we're knowing that maybe that could be the only option. It's like, well, we've got big things that we want to try to accomplish, and looking at the other big ticket items, in the city, and the challenges with, you know, the tax rates of roads, is like, we have to figure out maybe a different way. Because there's still parks, they're still gonna need repair, they're still gonna need like upgrades, and so this could be along the lines, we talked about that with Swim Dives. How do we get momentum for the pool someday? You know, like, how do we continue to do that? So it's hard because there may be the need now, like, well, you know, police fire were $50,000 over their budget, and here Parks and Rec made a bunch extra, so we're gonna fund it that way, but then we get back to the same hole. Like, well, there's not enough money to go around, and you're kind of sit with like the challenges of continuing to offer services and facilities.
Yeah, I would just offer, I mean, I think, you know, up till now, for the last number of years, that kind of what you're talking about, setting the money aside, really wasn't an option.
Correct.
Because we had no money.
Correct.
There was no extra money slush. But it will be a lot now, but certainly, I think that's almost a change in mindset. We have to work through
Right.
everything is not, you know, down to the last penny. as much. Yeah, I guess I'd be kind of leery to go back. But with the idea of charging for a transaction fee, I'd like to see how that works. in other places, oh, right? I just, I'm not sure how much money there is to squeeze out of farmers. I mean, they might be able to get 1,000 more sponsorships than if they can. Great.
The piece of vendors where it's at. Thousands of dollars. Yeah, there's, I don't know what the structure is.
Yeah, but that's, so yeah, I think it'd be good to get that.
Could we invite Claudia and Aaron to come to the next meeting and educate us too, so that as
That's a good idea.
think through
But, yeah,
it, we've got more knowledge and can partner with them.
I was thinking that even though I think we could vote on this today, but if we don't, that would be a reason, you know.
Yeah.
So for the, it kind of encourage them to show up at the next one.
Yep.
Yeah. talk to them.
And so we can ask them to prepare kind of a financial overview of revenue and expenditures for operation of the farmer's market on a basis of kind of. It's the exact, you know, penny for penny, a comparison of what would be a, you know, where they compare their market, so some areas, Madison, or, you know, what markets would they kind of, where they set pricing with the vendor spaces and sponsorships, and then maybe what the you know, what the appetite is for, and kind of what the ask is as well, farmers market, right? If they're still like, everything's fine, you know, sometimes the outlets don't work, and, you know, like, sometimes this happens or whatever, but overall, we're fine. We deal with the weeds, we deal with like the lack of parking spaces for everyone. Well, that's also different. We also know we got potentially, you know, playground, multiple storage unit, parking lot, accessibility improvements to do at that park. There's a fair amount of cost that is going to be incurred at that park over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. So, any way that we actually have another source of funding to help offset those costs would be great.
I really love the conversations, because I think I'm with you. There sounds like great stewards that can managing it, all for small business and farmers. You know, whatever it's, but I think it's worth doing some discovery and some education, both ways to, you know, make sure that we're not missing anything, and that who knows what that can, what creative ideas can come out of that. As far as, you know, there's a lot of businesses open, it will this year, and it's opening up a lot of lanes for new businesses and ventures. And I think one thing that just comes to mind is, I think Mesva did like the Monona. It's like, I'm just thinking like, how do we get more of a partnership to just, you know, promote people to stay in Monona, maybe spend for local businesses or our public services, things like that, where they may not be thinking like that. They might just be thinking about the farmers and vendors and maintaining that. So we have. Yeah.
Got the new billboard.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. What if we saw an explosion?
I think though, I mean, if you find out that there's not. The city's charging them some sort of fee, if we're like the only one that's not, I mean, it's a no-brainer that we should be charging them something. We can keep it pretty low to begin with, but it's the wear and tear of the parking lot, like you're talking about, costing the city money.
Has there ever been thought about?
I don't think from their perspective, it seems like it's a pretty good setup. You know, like, there's been talk about like the current residents would love to see it like a night market in the park, like in the green space at Grand Crossing. That was one of the feedback they gave us.
But you could do that, too, could do that like a.
Right. So the challenge of that site is like park drop off, it's all a lot of manually or stuff down, like that green space. Here could potentially be, you know, but now you're talking about vehicles driving on the path and, you know, would be whatever, so. Where?
What about Springfield?
Well, not even a park, I mean, like, yeah, parking.
Yeah, I mean,
Just because I think, I
Right.
mean, maybe we don't want it any bigger, or they don't want it any bigger, but maybe the trick to increasing income. Maybe that's.
Those are good things to find out.
Yeah.
How hard is it to get vendors? And
Yeah.
I do know from the time that I was on, people would apply, but, if they were selling tomatoes and there were already two other people selling tomatoes, then, you know,
You
then
gotta-
there
you
becomes
gotta-
an issue, so you have to balance it out. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't wanna like, it has to make sense for vendors, you have like 3 bakeries. and
Yeah.
4 coffee shop, or
All right, so why don't we do that? Let's just.
yep, we'll bring them back. And bring some of this data.
Yeah, we don't freak them out.
No, no.
Yeah. Alright, ready? Fruit sales and perks for 5, discussion, recommendation. On that,
So for you new people, there's a state statute that allows, city staff to sell beer in public parks, just beer.
You just like you yourself, selling beer out there. it's a city staff person.
Yeah, as long as it's right, as long as it's authorized by the. So. Our beer gardens, you know, at Schluter Beach have been successful, and then we've been able to serve all year at certain functions in the park at Grand Coffee and events here at Winnequa. So this is typically we get a recommendation from this board, it goes to approval in the packet. I've just included the 2025 event schedule, which is 3 pages long. And so we have a fairly significant offering, and this has other activities and events that are run by Park and Rec, but it just sets up our community calendar for events that we would have. So we've kind of bounced back and forth the last couple of years with our beer garden series. In Schluter and Grand Crossing, and then last year we just did a few, we did like 3 in a row. And we heard loud and clear that people wanted more after that, and at Schluter specifically. And so we balanced kind of where the Friends of San Damiano have some at the San Damiano property. The Friends of the Senior Center have concerts in the park at Winnequa, and trying to kind of balance where the East Side Club and Thursday Night Crew and different crowds play. So what we settled on is more at Schluter. Those are, I think, bolded, where we go May, June, the first couple Wednesdays of June, then we take a break between the festival and the concerts in the park, come back in September and do a couple in September. So adding some more there. Typically would have beer sales at some of our trivia nights that we have at Grand Crossing, Fall Festival, etc. So the ask is for 25 days in a calendar year for 2025. Final dates and times by myself based on weather, cancellations, etc. The revenue generated it's a net plus, but it's not like a huge, you know, money maker. Beer's expensive, we gotta buy it to the distributor. The turnout at the beer garden is largely dependent on weather, on what the weather looks like that night. Sometimes the musician can carry a crowd if they're popular, bring an outside crowd. We've also noticed too, like over the last couple of years, I think drinking culture is starting to change a little bit, like less people drinking, you know, large quantities of beer in a setting, and then the younger parents, which I'm not part of anymore, are more, like beer snobby, you know, they like have their own specific type that they like to bring. So we've noticed like more like families coming, actually are like bringing in their own beer or drinks and enjoying the atmosphere, you know, music, but not buying beer or soft pretzels from us or whatever we're selling. So trying to figure out how we can promote, like, spend your money with us, please, so we can continue to have it.
How long, if the event gets canceled due to the weather, how long can you notice from my college days, let's say the cake, the beer for?
We have to, I mean, they normally are here by 4, so like, we typically try to make a decision by noon or 2 on if to cancel, so, because they'll
And they
bring,
won't deliver the.
correct,
Oh, okay.
they don't tap the beer till they get into the park. But once they're to the park, it's like a last, like, are you on, because once you tap that first keg, you gotta buy it all. Like, if we don't tap or use a keg, if we're doing draft, sometimes you can. Cans are easier, but it seems there's more of a preference to have draft beer if it's possible. So
And
we,
if you tap it, like, can you save?
no, like, so if we had our, like, we've been bouncing back and forth, right? Like, how much are we gonna do this as a source for the department, city? Like, our staff likes doing it, like, our staff likes working here. It's fun, you know, for them and their music, but, it's like a cost. Should we go all in and do a trailer, our own trailer, and save money in rentals, trailer? You know, if we had a free, you know, if we had a walk-in cooler, and it's, but it's, you know, unless we start to get one option that we've talked about with this is, once we get the remodel, shapers, that we would offer, concessions on a more frequent basis for, you know, softball, you know, the baseball kids programs that are happening there. So that, at least if you have cans, you can shelf cans from beer garden to the softball shack. You'll keep that. So that may impact kind of selection. It's just like standard beer, but like have that available for the people that just like simple beer, keep it back for sale, but the cheap.
And I mean, if you're very, right?
I'm glad your staff likes working them, because I worry about I mean, that's a lot. Staff,
Yeah,
so glad they like it.
yeah, we have like a dedicated group that is working out. And then, you know, Missy and I tend to, like, Missy just works at them, then if I'm on, they just know that, like, I'm there, I just end up talking to Donnie, you know, Patrick, and then it's like, there's 6 people. I'm no good, you know, like, actually working. Like, yeah, yeah, or we have, and that, so the other thing is probably engaging some of our nonprofit groups into having food, because it's like, the food carts is the biggest challenge. Like, I can get my staff there to sell beer, the beer people are great, it's the food carts, it's like, they say they're in and then they're not in, they just don't show up, and then they don't have food, you know?
You have to pay, do they come?
No, they come for free, they have to get their license. Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're guaranteed, like, they know that they're gonna.
Yeah.
And we have, you probably get one of our cars, but it's like, you like to have a little bit of variety, or, you know, you got some picky eaters, just want hot dogs and brats for the kids, type of. That we could do some cost sharing. With, you know, some of our, not from Patriots hockey, there's wrestling clubs with it, you know, there's enough groups, I think, that could do some of the stuff, but.
And do you, I don't drink beer, I'm more of a wine.
Yeah,
When you do sell the beer, is it only the light beers, or do you, I thought you offered.
we do a
also-
whole,
Yeah,
yeah,
the whole range, so
whole
there's,
range,
you're offering,
yeah.
you know, choice for folks,
Right.
so.
always fermented malt beverage, because that's what's only allowed by the, so.
Yes. you can work on-
Yes, beverages too. It's true. You can.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's like, is it nonprofit or a pub? It's on down, they can do beer at once. So there's different, correct, there's different, the alcohol and beverage laws are very strange, and you can only take one guess as to why. Yeah, there's one big lobbyist organization that supports it, the tap.
Well, we do special events like for Italian dinner, yeah. So I can't sell wine there, I put it, it's on the premises, and there's no way for me to even able to do a special event unless they have an event venue.
Right, it's very challenging to go outside of the box,
So I did find one way around it. They have to come to the restaurant, buy the wine ahead of time, in person, and then they can bring it to the next.
This model has been used by one of the first in Wisconsin to have this as a like big staff. I think every year I get more emails, department directors or city clerks or elected officials about how we do it, and then so you'll be like, all over Wisconsin, it's kind of happened now. In parks, and this is another avenue to draw people to parks and have a good use to have music, and it's not like your typical fair beer tent or stuck it out. It's a 2-hour event, generally family friendly.
When you're publishing this event, like your flyer or whatever, you put on there, all proceeds go to improving Winona Parks.
Yeah. I mean, we have different, like, we use like tip jars for different causes, but like the events themselves are generally just to like make the operating budget whole. So they're not as like a fundraising mechanism per se, because we're trying to, bring in more on the rec budget revenue line than expenditure. There are shows like, maybe it's like $5,000 to $7,000 difference, net gain that we're looking at between all of the events that we do that, are also not free events. So
I'm just curious though, if some kind of verbiage on a flyer might be the folks actually purchasing
yeah,
the materials from you rather than bringing their own. I mean, maybe not.
probably just will be doing more crowdsourcing. Well, like, here's 8 flavors, pick, top 4 this week are gonna get picked, because we generally just rely on the beverage distributors, because they're beer people, and they're like, this is what's selling well, and this is what we're, recommending as kind of a palette of, different tastes or what people can enjoy. But we can certainly, and there's some like ones that we know sell well, right, 2 every time, and generally.
Well, I think they're fun.
Yeah, good. I hope everyone shows up to every single one of them. Let's get you guys market rec board shirts or something.
So there's 7 beer gardens at the playgrass for 25.
So the 25 would include other events that would be at different parks. So that could include fall festival, events like trivia nights, coffee, bags, leagues, have beer, we serve beer, sell beer there, and then a limited number of things here. Concession stand, and whether that's gonna be worthwhile.
Okay.
Does that include the same down?
No, you guys are on your own, so that's exciting. Yeah. Yep.
So you're looking for,
Yep, a motion to recommend it.
for discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Tony. All right, then I think we have to do
What do I have? We will be starting construction on this building. In the next 3 weeks, we'll start to see some activity for the renovation project. There'll probably be a period where there's demo, in which the stairwell will be removed and kind of all their demo work will be done, and then will be roped off and, you know, access, and so we have to work around specific events, including a February primary election, a spring election, Little Badger consignment sale, et cetera. So this room will be getting new light fixtures, paint, trim, and it kind of back and forth. It's included painting the wood, but I think probably just hopefully a good cleaning and restaining the pine wood ceiling that we have. The stairwell will be opened up and reversed down to the lower level. That all goes away. Senior center gets kind of a reception area, a little bit of renovation of the director's office, and then our office figured. So right now we have Missy, Jessica Walsh, and myself are the ones over here at our community center, and our rep is over at Maywood. So there may be periods where we're balancing back and forth, or Jessica might be at Maywood, the office they're in. The office that I'm in now, if you guys want, and I think I've rotated through every single room in this upper level, but I have now commandeered the big office back, so I have meetings and, yeah, so I'm very excited about that. Actually, very nice. So that's exciting that project is forward. I'm meeting with Dane County and City of Madison actually tomorrow on our cooperative permit program that we have for lake access permits and boat launches. That'll be exciting. There's talk about, it's kind of a three-way interesting thing, but revenue sharing, and you know, I've stated that challenges. There's 13 boat launches that are in the program. We have 3 of them. Probably have the best boat launch and most one of the busier ones because it's right in the middle of 2 water bodies, but they could be filled up by 7 a.m. with season pass holders that bought a pass at Madison and Dane County, and we're not, and our revenue numbers over the years have decreased from the annual pass sales. We used to have the Ace Hardware on Cottage Grove Road, the old A's that had that nice like fishing supply that sell them for us, and that kind of, no one's doing that anymore. Like I had, like even we used to do them at Western Marine, and then like, you know, because it's just another layer for them with. So that discussion will be, you know, one where I'll be pretty like we ride what Dane County Park Commissioners recommend for their budget, follow suit. Well, they did not want to raise fees like the last 4 years. I think staff level like raise fees because the cost on up launches. So we also missing out will be meeting with school district administration next week, kind of talk about the all new, you know, administrator, business manager, facilities manager are all new positions that last once a year, kind of just as an introduction, and talk about our existing facilities agreements with Maine School and the joint facility uses that we have. So looking forward to that partnership with the district and talking, you know, what the next 5 years or future looks like, partnership with the city and the school district, especially as it relates to school and the program offerings that we have. We have registration coming up for summer camp and after school, kind of staggered this year. Due for families that have kids in summer camp, as we're extending the drop off and pickup time, so it'll be 7:30 to 5:30. And we'll be including some field trips in that as well.
Like that you're setting that early morning.
Yeah,
That's great.
I missed it. I missed it from last year. I said, everyone's late.
Yeah.
All right. So that's, the staff is busy with that. We've had a pretty great, you know, ending and start at Lake Ridge Bank River Ring. Had a strong finish from Christmas to New Year's. New Year's Day was one of our busiest years on record from a sales perspective, and that was last Saturday. So Jess Walsh doing a great job. She had our staff organize a Wicked event. So if you're familiar with the Wicked movie and the service of just hats and photo ops and so that drew, you know, more people in. So that, hosting lots of different, school groups and et cetera. So the cold weather this weekend's gonna be a little bit of a hiccup where we may not, the minus chill days. That's it.
I was very happy to see them.
That's a one-time thing there. It warms my heart too, but also it's very difficult to justify staff. 4,000. They had we cleared this lagoon today. There's been, you know, several, one big family. And we've had several calls. Having the warming shelter open, so we're gonna try to get it, now that we know we're. Why, but we do not have the lights. So the pole is being removed. Thinking water, so that's the only light that actually, like, provided benefit. The other set of lights that's provided the gazebo, and that really doesn't light up anything as far as base skating, so. Longer term, you know, that'll be a discussion about how much we want to subsidize. It's just staff time. You know, it really is challenging to have 2 full-time per staff. And we did start a tree removal project that we like parked. Saw that social media, we posted that. There's been over the last large standing ash tree. It's part city, part school district property, but over 100 trees were standing dead and have been dropping limbs, and those, we were able to schedule with joint Public Works Department and take down a bunch of those ourselves, which is a huge cost savings having contract out. So the goal is to have as many of those hazard trees over this winter. We're using the logs that we'll use for firewood at the rink. So people ask, hey, can we get the logs? No, not yet. For ourselves, and we would find wood, you know, and it was like probably, I think, $2,000 even spending in firewood to keep fires at the rink. So we can repurpose that wood for that. The chips that are there at Maywood on the parking lot will be available for public taking spring, and we'll be replanting trees back in the area as well.
I'm grateful for the fire down there. So that's saving us tomorrow 5, so.
Yeah, one having thanks. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right, anybody have any questions?
In regards to that, but I did have one as far as, what's the our direct role in the known July Festival?
You're all about.
Okay, let's table that.
It'll be, we anticipate a facility use agreement, and the role that this committee has to play is to approve exclusive use of park permit by ordinance. Any organization that wants to have access to the entire park and be able to do what they do has to get an exclusive use of park from this board. That's right. So we have met with I should say I have met with the festival. The Monona Community Festival Board changed leadership last week. And the new board president is a Monona resident, Brian Henry. Brian from, you know, at Sugar High School. He's been meeting with administrator, fire chief, and myself. So we've had those initial conversations about just kind of what the festival has looked like, and I would anticipate you'll see kind of a full onslaught of communication from that festival, and this committee will see kind of what the use agreement look like. Again, I believe that we'll be doing kind of a 1 year, like, get through this first year of the festival and look at the same time conversation with that we had with Farmers Market. How can we produce an event that is beneficial to our residents and the visitors, but also supports the park long-term and funding mechanisms. So those are, I think, some of the things that we're looking at and talking about. How to achieve that. stay tuned. The next couple of months are gonna get busy with agenda items. So there's a lot of, and I apologize for getting this so late. It's talk about that. But just days run off and then trying to coordinate different groups and which ones are kind of ready to go and not quite ready and what still need to, discuss. Percent that kind of on the same page with things, and so there's, certain things that we're looking at, challenges that we have. Administratively putting this together along with kind of the day-to-day fighters that's ongoing basis that we. So I'm anticipating and hopeful that I will have. Sense me sooner, but still have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak.
Can't believe it. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, Tony.
All right.
Wood.
You guys.
Now Jeff is there.